What's critical when a department searches for a behavioral health program? What do they need to look for?
So top of my list, of course, is somebody's got to be available 24/7, 365. Your friend that had to wait 3 weeks, that's short. Right now, people are waiting from 4 to 6 weeks to get in and talk to somebody. So you 24/7, 365, you talk, we answer. And then finding a service that's available with clinicians that are trained to specifically work with those people that see incidences that are not normal to the rest of us, that aren't in those jobs. And of course, we're open 24/7, 365, so you can call any time. A company that's reliable, that's been around a long time, that's been in these individual pods during their tenure, and somebody that you know and trust and respect. But here, the number one issue is you call, we answer.
San Diego 911 emergency. You need to come right away. There's a man with a gun and it's loaded. Receiving emergency signal from 4 George 1141. We've got a white female down. We need paramedics close, please. All available units roll code that way.
Welcome to the De-Escalation Conversations Podcast. Today, I have just an amazing lady, the Chief Innovation Officer at First Moment, with a focus on transforming workplace culture through a prevention-oriented approach. First Moment bridges the gap between physical health and behavioral health and work comp incidents. They provide comprehensive care, and First Moment aims to prevent incidents and foster well-being within and beyond the workplace, meaning they're 360 just like we are here at IDEA with it. This stuff works at home, it works at work, it works when you go to the grocery store for a gallon of milk. And First Moment works to prioritize prevention and create an environment where employees and their families thrive. Not just the employees, but the employees and their families, because what you have at home, you bring to work. We all know that. So stick with us today as we jump into their insights and expertise in reshaping workplace culture. And please join me in welcoming First Moment's Chief Innovation Officer, Dr. Ann. Dr. Ann, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Kerry. It's great to have that title. I can come up with all these cool ideas and other people help me put them together. It's perfect.
And as many hours as we have spent talking with, for our listeners, Dr. Ann and I were just one of those serendipitous moments, which I think are absolutely the best things in life. We were both at EMS World, and I happened to have a random conversation with somebody I was there with, and they said something about the wellness hub. I'm like, I've been meaning to get over there, and I've only been here 3 days, so I ought to hidey-ho my butt over there, and I did, and there you were, you and your amazing husband. You guys are both great. I liked you from the moment I met you, and you and I have spent a lot of time talking. The thing about what you do, and what I'd like you to do first is just kind of give a brief overview of what First Moment does and the impact that you can have with people.
Thank you so much. Yes, First Moment, we own the first moment. The first moment of any incident, any accident, any thought is critical. And so we get in there at the first moment to help you take care of that incident that's going on, and also because whatever happens at that first moment, that's going to keep that incident on track and decrease the downline costs that come if something continues to happen and you didn't take care of it. So it's First Moment. What are we First Moment for? We're First Moment to help public safety, first responders, vets, academia, students, teachers, staff, that anybody that has work comp or any behavioral health issues going on in their workplace, whether it's a department or a school or a corporation, we're there to help you and help keep your people focused, safe, and on the job.
Okay, so when you talk about, I'm just a dumb street cop. I don't know anything. And so when you talk about incidents and work comp, what does that mean to me as a police officer or a firefighter, and how is First Moment going to step in and help me? I understand you can help, like agencies, and an HR person, a risk manager would be interested, but tell me how you're going to help me as a cop, a firefighter, or a school teacher.
So the number one way we can help you is on the behavioral health side. Cops see an average of 188 traumatic incidences a year. That's about one every other month. And most people in service, they don't have a way out. Yes, you probably have a peer support group and you probably have a clinician you can go to and you probably have an EAP program, but all of those, you know this, Kerry, they don't get used. The fear of somebody finding out that you talked to a clinician, that you went someplace for help, it just doesn't sit well with people, and people are so afraid it's going to come back and kick them in the butt when they're just trying to take care of themselves. So with our behavioral health programs, when you see an incident or a traumatic incident, whether it's physical, spiritual, or moral, you can call us 24/7, 365. We will answer the phone and talk to you with clinicians that are specifically trained in dealing with trauma and dealing with people in service. We want to help you get that off your brain so you can begin to heal and stay on the job.
Okay, I got you now. So what you're in essence doing is you're not just a crisis line. Like if I need to talk through something, or I'm having some issues that I'm having a tough time dealing with, or I need to vent with somebody, a crisis line rarely has trained clinicians. And I think that's a key differentiator for First Moment, isn't it?
100%. All of our clinicians are master's level, trained by a decorated vet, so been in the trenches, know what they're doing. And the best news about our clinicians is they don't start crying before you do.
Well, there's
Because
that.
I hear that story over and over, especially from those in service. And it's affecting teachers now, because I was a professor for a long time, and it's just scary in the classroom now. And so they say the worst thing, I went to the clinician that I was supposed to, she was part of the group that we have, and she was crying 5 minutes into my story, and I just walked out.
Yeah, because the story that the school teacher or first responder brings is so traumatic that the clinician is secondarily traumatized, and they can't help you because they're in survival state at that point.
Exactly.
So,
And yep, you can't go to
so
command. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, so and I think we're kind of about to say the same thing, which has happened a lot with you and I. I heard you say you can't go to command. What do you mean?
So, because things are set up the way they're set up and the politics are the way the politics are, for you as a cop to go to your command staff and say, stuff's going on in my head. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to go see. I don't want to drive 40 minutes to go see somebody. I can't take the time off of work. So you're giving excuses to yourself for not getting help. And you're kind of pushing that on to command staff. And then if command staff has problems, where do they go? Do you know anybody in a command staff that would actually talk to their peer support team?
Most of the time they won't. And the other thing that that I just experienced. Because so a lot of our listeners know I work on two different crisis hotlines, 60 hours, 60 hours a month. I mean, full-time job is 160. I'm working 60 hours a month on these two crisis hotlines. One of them is copline.org, which is just for law enforcement and their families. And I was talking to somebody on Copline. They said, I can't go to my psychological services because I am in charge of psychological services. I coordinate it. And so if I walk in there, I feel uncomfortable doing that. So I need some other outside department resource. And First Moment, if that department contracted with First Moment, they wouldn't have that issue. Now, the the other flip side is what's the availability of psychological services. Yeah, I'll give a personal example. So I was on peer support team for San Diego Police Department for 22 years, and our criteria for our peer support team is very unique
Mm-hmm.
in that you had to have been responsible. Your actions were directly responsible for someone dying. And so the vast majority of our team had been involved in OISs, officer involved shootings. There was a smattering of people. Like one guy had uh, there was a pedestrian, a transient, who had stepped out with a shopping cart, like right in front of the patrol car, and it was a vehicle versus pedestrian fatal. And we had a couple officers who had an in custody death. And so, there was some different ones, but the vast majority, like 98% of the officers on the team had been involved in officer involved
Mm-hmm.
shootings. And so we worked closely with our psychological services team in that. We worked hand in hand in that. And so I knew all of them well. So for me personally, it was almost like talking to that captain who oversaw the psychological services. And I should theoretically be able to go to them first, but I knew that there was just this internal, I don't know if I want to do that. And then I just heard recently there was there was an officer who was just, things had piled up. And he called up the psychological services. It wasn't for San Diego PD, it was another agency, a large agency, and said, hey, I need to talk to a clinician. And it took 3 weeks from the time of the first call until they finally talked to him. And I talked to this officer later. I'm like, hey, how'd everything go? He says, oh, my clinician is great. But I was good by the time I talked to him. I didn't need him anymore. I'm like, well, thank God you didn't need him anymore. But holy crap, what if it hadn't gotten better? What if it just continued to get worse and you gotta wait 3 weeks? But with First Moment, you've got a wide enough network of these trained clinicians that, I mean, you guys could almost call yourself First Call, because like you
Well,
pick up the phone and call and you're going to be talking to somebody pretty quick, right?
so, so, Kerry, it's interesting because originally when we named it, it was Responders First Call.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
And so then as we grew and changed, we had multiple first calls. So we went to First Moment because it gives better accessibility to all of our services. But I mean, that's exactly what happens. I mean, and this data is pre-COVID data because it's really hard to find mental health, behavioral health information, especially on people in public safety. But first responders, 71% of them have never used their EAP program.
Oh, I believe that.
Yep.
I don't know, honestly, I don't know anybody in my 30 years with law enforcement. I don't know anybody who did. Like, I can't think of, Joe, Frank, George, Judy. I got nobody. We always talk about it. Oh, we have an EAP program you can refer them to. I remember going through supervisor school. Oh, no, well, that's a step in dealing with a problem employee is offering EAP. I've never heard of a sergeant or lieutenant going, oh, yeah, Frank went over to EAP. Like,
And, and
I
Kerry,
don't know what
stories.
they do. I don't know. Honestly, I don't do. I mean, this sounds bad. I shouldn't trash them because it's not their fault. But I don't know what they do. If they just sit around I got a cup of coffee here, and I'm just gonna sit here because nobody's walking in the door.
Well, and the worst, you don't want to go to your HR person or your wellness team or whoever it is and say,
Right.
you know, that 4-year-old I just dropped in that ambulance and the mom was dead at the wheel because it was a horrible, horrible crash. The 4-year-old's on the way to the hospital. I don't know if he's going to live or die. I don't know where the dad is. I'm never going to get closure on this, but I'm good to go. And those and this gentleman that's loose in Maine right now, right? Case in point, how many groups and organizations, including the people that he worked with in the service, said that this gentleman was having problems? You call, we answer. Our service is that simple. It's the first moment. We call, you answer. We get you on the phone immediately with a clinician specialized in working with trauma, and we'll talk to you. And you can call back and talk to that same person. And if you want to do ongoing scheduled therapy with that individual, we can schedule that. And because we are a per employee per month cost, it doesn't go on your health insurance. It's
Yeah, and that's important for a couple of reasons. And I didn't realize I was having a conversation with my personal doc one day, and we were talking about things, and he said, yeah, if there's too much of this type of treatment, it can actually affect your rating. I'm like,
mhm.
what? I mean, it kind of makes sense, and yet at the same time, on the patient end, you don't ever think about that. So let's shift gears for just a moment. So as when I say shift gears, I just had this thought. This mass shooting in Maine just happened. So let's use that because it's new. It really kind of is an epitome example of where first moment
Mhm.
can be of a huge help. So who would first moment help with the folks that are responding to this main incident, just this mass shooting?
We start at the top. We can help the mayor. We can help the mayor's staff because they're all getting things second and third hand. So we can get the
All right, I got
mayor.
to I got to interrupt you, Ann. Oh, why does the mayor need anything?
The mayor is the leader. The mayor is at the top. The mayor is the person that people are going to for leadership.
Okay.
And if that mayor is so focused on the bad, nasty traumas that are going on, because we all know what happens when people get stressed or in trauma. All of their physical issues get stronger and stronger when all their emotional issues just kind of go into the background. So in
You
order,
know,
go ahead.
yeah. And I hate to interrupt you. I'm bad about that, but you just kind of blew my mind because I'm thinking there's a ton of people that are getting affected that we don't think about. Honestly, nothing against any mayors because I know there's some really great mayors out there. There's some crappy ones too, but there's some really good mayors who are doing the right thing, especially in small towns across America. And I don't think anybody ever thinks of them because and it just made me think on peer support team. I never once thought when the police chief came to the hospital for an officer who had been injured, and this is completely ignorant of me. I never thought about pulling the chief aside. I've pulled lieutenants and captains aside and checked on them, but I never thought about checking on the chief. I don't know why that's like so cold-hearted of me, but it was like he's taking care of his stuff, I'm taking care of my stuff. We're the leaders in our own areas, and nobody's checking on the folks, a lot of these folks. So keep going, because this is really expanding my mind. I love this.
When you talk about the chief and all the leaders, they're getting information second or third hand. They're not there. They saw it on television. 911 operators, they never get closure on an incident.
No kidding. They are kicked to the curb on, now I'll say this, in San Diego, we would bring them in on the emotional debriefs, the incident debriefs. And that was, they loved that. But I know there's a lot of agencies that still don't do that. So keep going, keep going, keep going. I'm loving this.
And all of these people that are their impact, they took a psych class if they went to college years ago. They don't have their tools to deal with it. And Kerry, you know this, you're not going to, your spouse at home and your 4 and 5 year olds are watching all of this fold on the television, and they have no idea where daddy or mommy are. Not any different than what's happening in the East with all of the people that have been captured. Nobody knows who's alive or who's dead. But everything works from the top down. So talking only to the people on the street, literally, in the departments, that's a great, they need help very, very quickly in the moment. But it's the mayor, it's the secretary, it's the medical director. I mean, I just got an article that doctors now, the burnout with physicians is sky high. In the state of Michigan, after COVID, they expect the suicide rate for physicians to go up by 40%, 40. A physician is, and they're going to go to the hospital psychologist, knock, knock, knock. I just got finished with the surgery. Do you have 10 minutes? Nobody has that 10 minutes. If something's happening to you and you're in the middle of an incident, you're going into a fire, your lieutenant pulls you out of that fire for some reason, and you know that there's a dog in that house and you can't get to that dog, you're going to go back to the truck, get on the truck and go back in, and you're thinking about your puppy dog at home and how much those kids love that dog, right? But you're going, and I'm putting boundaries up. It seems silly, but that's what happens. And as an officer, you see 188 of those a year, and those are the big ones.
Well, and the thing is that even if, what you're talking about, there's probably people who are like, I don't really like dogs anyway. Or there's people who are like, oh, I wouldn't feel that way. Well, the first time I lost a pet, I didn't expect it to affect me as strongly as it did. And so, but even if you're not affected by in that way, it's a layer, and then stuff stacks up, and that's how a croissant is made. It's layer after layer after layer after layer, except this is a crap croissant. It's not a good croissant. The trauma is. Okay, so something just occurred to me. There's people, and I'm still working with this main incident. When you think about the massive operation that's going on right now in this manhunt, there's people who are not directly in the field they're still going to be affected, right?
Everybody's people in all the surrounding towns, people that have lived something like this. With the other one we had where the gentleman hid forever and ever in Pennsylvania, that's just re-triggering all those memories again. I taught and coached at Columbine High School probably in the mid 70s. Every time there's a school shooting, guess what comes into my head?
Yeah.
Columbine. I'm giving away my age too, but Columbine. And unfortunately, 70% of our thoughts that come in a day are negative, and we remember those. So when A pops up now, what's happening right now, all that escalates subconsciously is in your head. And you're going to go back to the station and go to sleep? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And,
Makes
and
sense.
when you call your spouse, what are you going to tell them? Yeah, I'm okay. Everybody's okay. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And so
So,
yeah, sorry.
yeah, no, it's okay. It's just I'm curious, what's let's shift gears again a little bit because we've got a lot of people being traumatized, got a lot of people being affected, even if you don't go to the traumatized word. I'll be honest. There's sometimes that it's almost like people going, I've been traumatized. It's almost become so cliche nowadays that, oh, I got to have a safe zone in my school because the teacher gave me a C instead of an A that I think I deserved, so I'm traumatized. I need a safe zone. It's like, oh, come on. The term snowflakes was popular for a while for people that would just melt under any kind of, it didn't have to be direct sunlight. It was just warmth around them. And they're like, ah. So I want to acknowledge that sometimes that traumatized word is overused, but let's just talk about how you're affected. And again, that layers of that crap croissant. But there's people like a secretary, it just popped into my head, secretary at a medical examiner's office who has to process all these death certificates on top of their normal workload. So it's just, again, it's these added layers that add up that by themselves not a big deal, but things add up over time. And so with that kind of as a foundation for this, my next question, what's the financial and cultural impact of a department that's not looking out for their people, an agency or a school district that's not looking out for their people? And so there's some emotional behavioral health that's not being addressed. What's the financial and cultural impact of that?
So the financial impact is crazy for first responders in general. Let me just check this. So the cost of non-fatal injuries, probably because 80% of injuries now across the workplaces are initiated because of a behavioral health issue. 80%.
Wow.
Okay. In fire, a town and community spends anywhere between 1.6 and 5.9 billion dollars. That's what we spend as a country. Each department, the cost ranges anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000, and per firefighter, the cost of non-fatal injuries runs between $1,500 to $6,000 per firefighter a year.
A year
A year
per
per firefighter.
firefighter.
Mm-hmm. So just
Okay.
do the
And
math in your
so,
head. Use a company of 100,
holy crap, that's a boatload of money.
and
And in first moment, now, one of the things that surprised me when we talked, I thought you guys, everybody hears about insurance premiums. I look into insurance now that I'm retired. I'm like, I get scared. You guys are not outrageously expensive.
no, we're very, very, very affordable. I mean, and I'll give you a ballpark, but we're not close to the $50,000 a year per firefighter. In fact, for a department of, I mean, we work with people basically right around that $9 to $12 per employee per month.
$9 to $12 per employee per month, and I can pick up the phone if I'm one of those employees And do I get like half an hour with the clinician? What do I get for that $9 to $12 a month?
Whenever you're finished talking, they're finished listening.
So I can pick up the phone at any time, talk to a trained clinician who's been specially trained to work with folks in my industry, whether it's, as a first responder or school teacher, and I can just pick up the phone. And it costs me nothing out of pocket because the agency is paying this $9 to $12. Is that right?
Exactly. And yes. And so then we can also add on those ongoing consultations. That's a little bit of an additional cost, but not much. And then, but it's simple. I mean, we can do it for teachers, we can do it for students, we can do it for faculties. And I mean, when I talk to a potential client, I usually ask for the mayor to be on the phone, because if I don't have the support of that mayor in this program, it's not going to work.
And that makes sense. That makes sense. So,
but
let's say a department. Let's say I want to steer my department toward this, or I work in an area where I'm going to be making a decision about having a conversation with you about it. What's critical when a department searches for a behavioral health program? What do they need to look for?
So top of my list, of course, is somebody's got to be available 24/7, 365. Your friend that had to wait 3 weeks, that's short. Right now, people are waiting from 4 to 6 weeks to get in and talk to somebody. So you 24/7, 365, you talk, we answer. And then finding a service that's available with clinicians that are trained to specifically work with those people that see incidences that are not normal to the rest of us, that aren't in those jobs. And of course, we're open 24/7, 365, so you can call anytime. A company that's reliable, that's been around a long time, that's been in these individual pods during their tenure, and somebody that you know and trust and respect. But here, the number one issue is you call, we answer. So many times when you get in a program, you'll get a call center, and then you'll get a call back from an 888 number that you don't have any idea who it is, and you can't call it back because it won't go through.
Right.
And when you finally get the wherewithal to ask for help, you don't need it in 2 hours, you need it now.
Yeah, that's powerful.
And it's basically unlimited. I mean, we don't, and then what we also do is we let you know as a school, as a department, as a corporation, what people have called in about. We can't tell you who they are because that's a HIPAA thing, but we can tell you. So if we're getting stress, anxiety, even financial, divorces never happens in the services, right?
Cops never get divorced. Firefighters never get divorced either.
Yeah, we're going to let you know so that you can start a prevention campaign. And my whole background and doctorate's in the why wellness programs work. Don't get a program for pregnancy if you don't have any women that you're working with that are going to get pregnant. I mean, we can help you create a program specific to what we're hearing from your people.
That's pretty cool. Go ahead.
So this is new information, and it's basically an EMS study in 2022. The top EMS concerns are psychological safety, the ability to speak freely without reprisal. Everything we do is confidential. It will never, ever be told to anybody. And then the other big concern is violence. Violence from the patient. I mean, emergency room nurses probably are one of the most attacked individuals in the hospital. And then mental health, 80% of the responders had concerns about their mental health. So we're not sweeping it under the carpet anymore. And we don't want the whole world to know that you're having problems. You don't want your spouse to know you're having problems. We won't tell them. And we'll get on the phone with you and your family and your spouse, because if we can begin to educate those younger children, and we can talk to children one-on-one as long as we have the signature of the parent or the guardian. But the sooner we can get those kids to understand that the feelings that they have are more normal than the Pollyanna, it's fine. Everything's just fine. The sooner we can become a society that's just a little bit more balanced and begin to totally change the culture to a more caring environment.
And that's pretty cool. And I love the confidentiality part. You know that you're not going to get dimed off for what you're talking about, and you can actually open up and be honest about what you're going through to get the help that you need. That's pretty darn cool.
You know, we can actually coach you on how to tell your spouse or talk to your spouse.
Oh, that's powerful. That's really powerful. Dr. Ann, you have so many great things, and we're reaching the end of our time for today. Will you be back on the show for us? Would you honor us with that gift of your time again?
Sure, I'd love to. It's just so fabulous to work with other people that are spreading the word. And I mean, it's a cliche now, but it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay there.
Love that. Love that. Well, for our listeners, please check out First Moment. The contact information for Dr. Ann is in the show notes. So if you're driving, don't worry about it. It's there for you. And Dr. Ann, why don't you give us your website for the people that are listening and not watching the video part of this?
It's firstmoment.com, 1stmoment.com.
The numeral one.
Number one, st.com. So okay. We're first in. We want to help.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. All right. Folks, also check out theidea.world for information on de-escalation, conflict resolution, and relationships and leadership. We have tons of resources available for you. And if your agency is interested in having a further conversation, please reach out to Dr. Ann. If you're interested at firstmoment.com, 1st.com, 1stmoment.com, and theidea.world for de-escalation, conflict resolution, leadership, and relationships. Until next time, please stay safe.
Thank you.
I hope you found a lot of great value in this episode of the De-Escalation Conversations podcast. Please be sure to go to our website, theidea.world, THEIDEA.world. On that website, just click on the link that resonates with you most. If you're a K-12 educator, if you're a firefighter, medical services, law enforcement, flight attendants, whatever industry you're in, we have specialized training for you. So check that training out, because literally it can save your life, it can save your relationship, it can save your career. So check out theidea.world. And I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. This is Kerry Mensior, and thanks for watching this episode of the De-Escalation Conversations podcast. I hope you got some great insights that you can use right away. But don't stop here. Click that video link above and keep the momentum going with another powerful episode. And hey, if you haven't already, please hit that like button and the subscribe bell so you never miss an episode. New strategies, new stories, and new ways to connect coming your way every week. See you in the next episode.